قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ ثَبَتَ فِي الْأَخْبَارِ الصَّحِيحَةِ, know that it is confirmed in the authentic news. What's that? عَوْدُ الرُّوحِ إِلَى الْجَسَدِ فِي الْقَبْرِ, the return of the soul to the body in the grave. كحديث البراء بن عازب الذي رواه الحاكم والبيهقي, like the hadith of Al-Bara ibn Azib, the one that's narrated by Al-Hakim and Al-Bayhaqi, wa Abu Awana, and it's narrated by Abu Awana, wa صححه غير واحد, and more than one has authenticated it. Abu Awana, anyone know what his book is? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He has a mustakhraj of Sahih Muslim. He has a mustakhraj of Sahih Muslim. That means he narrates what's in Sahih Muslim by his own chain of narration. It's his version of Sahih Muslim, or whatever he had of Sahih Muslim to match it. So that makes it what? That makes it a book of authentic hadiths. Wa hadith ibn Abbas marfu'a, and also like the hadith of Ibn Abbas that is elevated up to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. ما من أحد يمر بقبر أخيه المؤمن كان يعرفه في الدنيا فيسلم عليه إلا عرفه ورد عليه السلام. There is not one who passes by the grave of his fellow believer that he used to know in the world, and then gives a salam to him, but that he would recognize him, the dead one that is. The dead one would recognize the one who is passing by giving him a salam, and he would return his salam. رواه ابن عبد البر وعبد الحق الإشبيلي وصححه. Ibn Abd al-Barr and Abdul Haq al-Ishbili narrated that, and the latter, he authenticated it. Okay. So if we look at the way the Shaykh worded this, it looks like he's talking about two different hadiths without mentioning the first one. Because he says, no, that it is confirmed in the authentic reports, the return of the soul to the body in the grave, like the hadith of Al-Bara ibn Azib, that's narrated by Al-Hakim and Al-Bayhaqi and Abu Awana, and more than one authenticated it. And the hadith of Ibn Abbas, the one might thought that's the same hadith. Yani it flows like could be the same hadith. Like as if it's saying, and also that same one is narrated by Ibn Abbas too. But I don't know. We're going to see what's in the sharh here. But he says, and the hadith narrated by and the hadith of Ibn Abbas that's elevated to the Prophet, and then he gives the hadith, and then he says, Ibn Abdul Barr narrated it, and Abdul Haq al-Ishbili narrated it, and he authenticated it. So then means it's a different hadith. So in this one paragraph, he cited one hadith. Yani he produced one hadith actually, but he cited more than one. Ash-SharH, نحن نؤمن بما ورد في هذا الحديث. The explanation is that we believe in what came in this hadith. وَلَوْ لَمْ نَكُنْ نَسْمَعُ رَدَّ السَّلَامِ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ. Even if we did not hear the dead person's response to the salam, even if we did not hear the return of the salam from the dead, لِأَنَّ اللَّهَ حَجَبَ عَنَّا ذَلِكَ, because Allah veiled us from that. Not that it's not there, but He willed for us not to perceive that usually. That's what it means. Hajaba anna dhalika. He veiled it from us. Doesn't mean doesn't exist. Means we don't perceive it. وحديث البراء ibn عازب حديث طويل. And the hadith of Al-Bara ibn Azib is a long hadith. فيه, it includes وَيُعَادُ الرُّوحُ إِلَى جَسَدِهِ, and the soul is restored to his body, or returned to his body. And he could put an ellipsis there. أما حديث ابن عباس, now concerning the hadith of Ibn Abbas, فرواه ابن عبد البر في التمهيد والاستذكار. Ibn Abd al-Barr narrated it in At-Tamheed wal-Istidhkar. So it says here, Ibn Abd al-Barr narrated that in At-Tamheed and Al-Istidhkar, and in Al-Istidhkar. So there's a footnote here concerning At-Tamheed. As-Suyuti in Al-Hawi lil-Fatawa says it's in that book. But we didn't find it in the printed copy of At-Tamheed. We got the printed copy of At-Tamheed so that we could see it. We didn't find it. So this is what the Shaykh says. What did they do here? This Ash-SharH Al-Qaweem. This is Shaykh Abdullah's explanation of As-Sirat Al-Mustaqim. This is knowledge that he gave without doing takhrij, the footnotes. Shaykh Abdullah didn't do the footnotes here. So they took this book, went through many revisions. And now in some of its last stages, I think this might be latest copy. Yani, over the years and years and years, they did takhrij, which is they looked into the Shaykh's sources. This is what Shaykh says here. The Shaykh is saying from his memory, this hadith in here and this hadith in here, and Fulan said it here and Fulan said there. So they went through doing takhrij of all of whatever Shaykh Abdullah said. This is all dictation from the Shaykh. So the Shaykh says, as for the hadith of Ibn Abbas, Ibn Abd al-Barr narrated it in At-Tamheed. So that's what Shaykh said. So, okay, so they want to document that. Where is it in At-Tamheed? So they went and got At-Tamheed. They didn't find it. But they did know that As-Suyuti says, like the Shaykh says, that As-Suyuti says that's in At-Tamheed in his book Al-Hawi lil-Fatawa. And that happens sometimes. The scholars would say in such and such book. But if you look, you won't find it. That doesn't mean it's not there. Even that right there, that's the difference between person who really is dealing with knowledge and person who's not. Might not be there. You might not find it in any copy that you can get your hands on. Doesn't mean still that it's not there originally. So they said, they checked what the Shaykh said. Ibn Abd al-Barr narrated it in At-Tamheed. They didn't find it there, but they did find that As-Suyuti says like the Shaykh says. So maybe Shaykh knows, or maybe Shaykh is saying like Suyuti. Maybe Shaykh is yanqulu ani Suyuti, logging what Suyuti said or copying Suyuti. So Ibn Abd al-Barr, the Shaykh says, narrated that in At-Tamheed and in Al-Istidhkar. As for Al-Istidhkar, they found it and gave you where it is. Volume 1, page 234. But according to what publication, though? So you look in the back, they'll tell you the publication. Yani, which publishing house, because different publishing house going to have different pagination. So he says here, as for the hadith of Ibn Abbas, Ibn Abd al-Barr narrated that in At-Tamheed and in Al-Istidhkar, وَصَحَّحَهُ الْحَافِظُ عَبْدُ الْحَقِّ, and Hafiz Abdul Haq authenticated it. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, فيستلزم ذلك رجوع الروح إلى البدن كله وذلك ظاهر الحديث أو إلى بعضه. This dictates, this demands, this necessitates that the soul returns to the body, either completely to the complete body, and that's what appears from the hadith, that the soul returns to the body completely, yani re-merges with the body, or at least the soul will rejoin with some of the body, if not all of it. But it appears from the hadith that it rejoins with all of the body. ويتأكد عود الحياة في القبر إلى الجسد مزيد تأكد في حق الأنبياء. And this return of the return to life in the grave, the body's return to life in the grave, is especially true of the prophets. فإنه ورد من حديث أنس عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Indeed, there came in the hadith of Anas from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, al-anbiya'u ahya'un fi quburihim yusallun. The prophets are alive in their graves praying. صححه البيهقي وأقره الحافظ. Al-Bayhaqi authenticated this hadith, and the Hafiz Ibn Hajar agreed. He concurred. Ash-SharH, the explanation. عود الروح إلى الجسد ثابت في حق كل الأشخاص الصالحين الصالحين والطالحين. The return of the soul to the body is confirmed concerning all people, pious and impious. وَأَمَّا فِي حَقِّ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ فَأَقْوَى. And as for the prophets, concerning the prophets, then this is more important to believe. This is more urgent to believe in. فَقَدْ صَحَّ حَدِيث الْأَنْبِيَاءُ أَحْيَاءٌ فِي قُبُورِهِمْ يُصَلُّونَ. Authenticated is the hadith, the prophets are alive in their graves praying. هَذَا ثَابِتٌ لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ. This is confirmed for every prophet. وَأَمَّا غَيْرُهُمْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. But concerning other pious people, قَدْ يَحْصُلُ لِبَعْضِهِمْ لَكِنَّهُ لَيْسَ عَامًّا. It could happen to some of them, meaning praying in the grave, not coming back to life. That part's for everyone. What about praying in the grave, though? It could happen to some of the pious, but it's not general. كما حصل للتابعي الجليل ثابت البناني. Like what happened to the great tabi'i, the companion follower, Thabit al-Bunani, rahimahullah. فقد شُهِدَ في قبره بعد موته وهو يصلي. He was witnessed in his grave after his death, praying. وقال ابن رجب في كتابه أهوال القبور. Ibn Rajab said in his book, The Horrors of the Grave, روى أبو نعيم بإسناده عن محمد بن عبد الله الأنصاري. Abu Nu'aym narrated with his own chain of narration. So this is what Ibn Rajab says. Abu Nu'aym narrated with his own chain from Muhammad ibn Abdullah Al-Ansari. قال حدثني إبراهيم بن الصمة المهلبي قال حدثني الذين كانوا يمرون بالحفر. قال حدثني الذين كانوا يمرون بالحفر بالأسحار. قالوا كنا إذا مررنا بجنبات قبر ثابت البناني رضي الله عنه سمعنا قراءة القرآن. Let me take a look in my copy here, see if I have something. بالجس بالأسحار كانوا يمرون بالحفر بالأسحار كانوا يمرون بالجس بالأسحار قالوا كنا إذا مررنا بجنبات قبر ثابت البناني رضي الله عنه سمعنا قراءة القرآن حفر أبي موسى وهي ركايا أحفرها. So I'm not sure how to translate this. He says, so Ibn Rajab says in his book, The Horrors of the Grave, he copies from Abu Nu'aym, who gave his own chain of narration, back to a man named Al-Muhallabi. He said, those who used to pass by Al-Hafar, according to the footnote, that's a place. Those who used to pass by Al-Hafar in the morning, or not in the morning, in the depth of the night, in the wee hours of the night. He said, they told me we used to pass by Janabati Qabri Thabitini al-Bunani. Here, Janabats, I don't know what that means. So, loose translation. We used to pass by the grave of Thabit al-Bunani, radiyallahu anh, may Allah accept from him, and we would hear the recitation of the Quran. Wabi isnadihi, and also by his chain of narration, Abu Nu'aym, that is. And Abu Nu'aym, he has a book called Hilyatul Awliya. Means something like the decor or the jewelry of the saints. So Ibn Rajab is copying from Abu Nu'aym. So he says, Wabi isnadihi, and by his chain of narration also, An Yasar ibn Hubaysh. Let me actually double check that too. An Abihi, in Hilyatul Awliya, it's Shayban ibn Jasir. So it's a different name here. And name that I took in my own copy, which is old copy, maybe not reliable anymore, since my copy is from 2005. Maybe the printing is not reliable anymore. There's many corrections. So my copy that I read says Sayyar ibn Hassan. Sayyar ibn Hassan. So Sayyar, these letters are flipped around. Yasar ibn Hassan says here. So maybe that's Hubaysh. Allahu A'lam. An Abihi. So also narrated from Abu Nu'aym with his own chain of narration. And from someone. أنه قال, that he said, أنا والذي لا إله إلا هو, I swear by the one that no one is God but he. أدخلت ثابتا البناني لحده, I put Thabit al-Bunani into his grave. ومعي حميد ورجل غيره, with me was Humayd and another man. فَلَمَّا ثَوَّيْنَا عَلَيْهِ اللَّبِنَ, so then when we fixed the blocks the way we wanted them to for burying him, سَقَطَتْ لَبِنَةٌ, a block fell. فَنَزَلْتُ, so I got down into the grave. فَأَخَذْتُهَا, and then I took hold of that block, مِنْ قَبْرِهِ, to take it out of his grave. فَإِذَا بِهِ يُصَلِّي فِي قَبْرِهِ, and behold, he was praying in his grave. فَقُلْتُ لِلَّذِي مَعِي أَلَا تَرَاهُ, so I said to who was with me, do you see him? قَالَ اسْكُتْ, he said, be silent. فَلَمَّا سَوَّيْنَا عَلَيْهِ التُّرَابِ. So then when we covered his grave, when we filled his grave in, فَفَرَغْنَا, and we were finished, أَتَيْنَا ابْنَتَهُ, we went to his daughter. فَقُلْنَا لَهَا, and we said to her, مَا كَانَ عَمَلُ ثَابِتٍ, what did Thabit used to do? قالت وَمَا رَأَيْتُمْ, she said, and what did you see? فَأَخْبَرْنَاهَا, so we told her. فَقَالَتْ, and so she said, كَانَ يَقُومُ اللَّيْلَ 50 سَنَةً, he used to pray at night for 50 years. فَإِذَا كَانَ السَّحَرُ قَالَ فِي دُعَائِهِ, and then when the dawn approached, he would say in his supplication, Allahumma in kunta a'tayta ahadan min khalqika as-salata fi qabrihi fa'a'tiniha. He used to say in his dua, Oh Allah, if you have given any one of your creation prayer in his grave, then give it to me. فَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيَرُدَّ ذَلِكَ الدُّعَاء. She said, and so Allah would never turn this dua down. انتهى, end quote. وروى أيضا عن سالم بن عبد الله بن عمر عن أبيه. And he also narrated from Salim, the son of Abdullah ibn Umar, from his father. He narrated from Salim that Salim narrated from his father Abdullah ibn Umar أنه قال, that he said, خرجت أسير وحدي, I went out on a journey alone. فمررت بقبور من قبور الجاهلية, and I passed by a cemetery I passed by some graves that were buried in the time of ignorance. فإذا رجل قد خرج علي من قبر منها يتلهب نارا, and behold, a man emerged to me from one of those graves ignited in flames. وفي عنقه سلسلة من نار, and around his neck was a chain of fire. ومعي إداوة من ماء, and I had some water. فلما رآني قال, like maybe means I had a canteen, for example, or I'm not sure exactly how to translate idawa. فلما رآني قال, and so when he saw me, he said, يا عبد الله اسقني. When he saw me, he said, Oh Abdullah, give me drink. Ya Abdullah, subba alay. Oh Abdullah, pour upon me. قال فوالله ما أدري. He said, I swear to God, I don't know. أعرفني أو كلمة تقولها العرب. Is it that he knew me? That's why he called me Abdullah? Or was it just a word that the Arabs used to say commonly? So that's why he called me Abdullah. إذ خرج رجل من القبر. Then another man came out of the grave. وقال يا عبد الله لا تسقه فإنه كافر. He said, Abdullah, do not give him drink. He is indeed a disbeliever. قال فأخذ السلسلة فاجتذبه حتى أدخله القبر. He said he took that chain and pulled him until he put him back down into the grave. قال, so he also said, Abdullah ibn Umar, وآواني الليل إلى منزل عجوز. The night took me to an old lady's place. إلى جانب بيتها قبر. And beside her house was a grave. وقال, he said, سمعت هاتفا يهتف بالليل. I heard a speaker without seeing him saying something at night. يقول بول وما بول شن وما شن. He was saying بول وما بول. So I don't know how to translate that really. Bowl means urine. Ma has many meanings. Could mean what? It could mean many things. Could even be a negation, ma, sometimes. So I don't know how to direct the translation here. But very loosely, it's kind of sort of like he's saying, urine, urine, canteen, a canteen. وقلت للعجوز. So Abdullah bin Umar said, I said to the old lady, ويحك ما هذا. He said, what was you? What is this? قالت زوج لي. She said, a husband of mine. Interesting word there, because you could derive from there she had more than one husband in her life. زوج لي, a husband of mine. وكان لا يتنزه من البول. He used to not clear himself of urine. فأقول له ويحك. And I used to say to him, woe is you. إن البعير إذا بال تفاج. She said, even the camel, if it urinates, spreads its legs. She's saying, even the camel avoids his own urine. فكان لا يبالي. She said he didn't used to care. قالت وبينما هو جالس إذ جاءه رجل. And once he was sitting when a man came to him. فقال اسقني. The man said to him, give me a drink. فإني عطشان. I'm dying of thirst. قال عندك الشن. So he told him, there's the canteen. وشن لنا معلق. She said, we had a canteen that was hanging. فقال يا هذا اسقني فإني عطشان. So the man said, hey you, give me drink. I'm dying of thirst. الساعة أموت. I will die now. قال عندك الشن. He said to that man, there's the canteen. قالت ووقع الرجل ميتا. She said, and that man fell dead. Yani he let that man die of thirst right there in front of him. قالت فهو ينادي من يوم مات. She said, and so he calls out ever since the day he died. بول وما بول شن وما شن. Urine, urine. A canteen, a canteen. قال فلما قدمت على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أخبرته بما رأيت في سفري. He said, when I came to the messenger of God sallallahu alayhi wasallam, I told him about what I saw during my journey. فنهى عند ذلك أن يسافر الرجل وحده. And ever since then, the messenger forbade a man traveling alone. That's a prohibition of dislikeness, by the way, not prohibition of sin. Intaha, end quote. Better to travel at least 3. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not say to this man, to Abdullah bin Umar, you're a liar. Such things do not happen. So that's a proof against Wahhabis, because Wahhabis don't believe in activity after death. or activity in the graves. They don't believe that a dead person could be beneficial after his death. Fasl, section. So Shaykh still copying. When did he start copying? All the way up here. Qala ibn Rajab. Ibn Rajab said. So he's quoting. Fasl, section. وأما ما شُهِدَ من نعيم القبر وكرامة أهله, concerning what was witnessed of the bliss of the grave and its privilege and the privilege of its people. فكثير أيضا, that's also plenty. وقد سبق في الباب الأول والرابع بعض ذلك, and some of that preceded in the first and the fourth chapter. So if you saw the original book, you'll see what's there. وروى ابن أبي دنيا في كتاب الرقة والبكاء, and Ibn Abi Dunya narrated in the book of soft-heartedness and crying, بإسناده, with his own chain, عن سكين ibn Miskin, from Sukain ibn Miskin, Anna Warradani maybe that's Al-Ijli, Lamma Mata Fahumila ila Hufratihi, that Warrad, a man named Warrad Al-Ijli, when he died and he was taken to his ditch, Nazalu liyadfanuh fi hufratih, they got down so that they could bury him in his ditch. فَإِذَا اللَّحْدُ مَفْرُوشٌ بِالرَّيْحَانِ, and behold, the compartment in the grave was lined with rayhan, yani nice smelling plants. فَأَخَذَ بَعْضُهُم مِّن ذَلِكَ الرَّيْحَانِ, so some people even took some of that rayhan. فَمَكَثَ 70 يَوْمًا طَرِيًّا, and it stayed for 70 days fresh. لَا يَتَغَيَّر, that's more than 2 months. لَا يَتَغَيَّر, not changing. يَغْدُ النَّاسُ وَيَرُوحُونَ يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَيْهِ, the people were coming and going looking at it. فَأَكْثَرَ النَّاسُ فِي ذَلِكَ, so then the people did it a lot. فَأَخَذَهُ الْأَمِيرُ, and then the Amir took it. وَفَرَّقَ النَّاسَ خَشْيَةَ الْفِتْنَةِ, and he broke up the people. Yani he stopped the people from this out of fear of some tribulation. He was afraid maybe some sort of deviance would emerge out of this. فَفَقَدَهُ الْأَمِيرُ مِنْ مَنْزِلِهِ لَا يَدْرِي كَيْفَ ذَهَبَ, and then the Amir himself lost it in his own house, and he had no idea where it went. Intaha, end quote. وَالْكَافِرُ يُقَالُ لَهُ انظُرْ إِلَى مَقْعَدِكَ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ, to the disbeliever will be said to him, look at your seat in the garden. أَبْدَلَكَ اللَّهُ بِهِ مَقْعَدًا مِنَ النَّارِ, God has replaced it for you with a seat in the fire. فَيَرَاهُمَا جَمِيعًا, and then he would see both of them. And that happens to the believer too, with just the reverse. No. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. وروى البخاري ومسلم عن أنس عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال. Al-Bukhari and Muslim narrated from Anas, from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that he said, إِنَّ الْعَبِدَ إِذَا وُضِعَ فِي قَبْرِهِ, indeed, the slave, when he is put in his grave, وَتَوَلَّى عَنْهُ أَصْحَابُهُ, and his people turn away from him, وَإِنَّهُ لَيَسْمَعُ قَرْعَ نِعَالِهِمْ إِذَا انصَرَفُوا. And indeed, by God, he hears the hitting of their sandals when they walk away. أَتَاهُ مَلَكَانِ. Two angels come to him. فَيُقْعِدَانِهِ. And they sit him up. فَيَقُولَانِ. And they say to him, مَا كُنْتَ تَقُولُ فِي هَذَا الرَّجُلِ مُحَمَّدٍ. What did you used to say of this man, Muhammad? فَأَمَّا الْمُؤْمِنِ. Now concerning the believer, أي الكامل, what's meant here is the perfect believer. فَيَقُول. He thus says, أَشْهَدُ أَنَّهُ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولُهُ. I testify that he is the slave of God and his messenger. فَيُقَالُ لَهُ. And then it will be said to him, انظر إلى مقعدك من النار. See your seat in the fire. أبدلك الله به مقعدا من الجنة. God has replaced it for you with a seat in the garden. فَيَرَاهُمَا جَمِيعًا. And then he sees them both. وَأَمَّا الْكَافِرُ أَوْ الْمُنَافِقُ. And concerning the disbeliever or the hypocrite. So that's possibly Shakkur Rawi, the narrator doubting which way the hadith goes. فَيَقُول. He thus says, La adri. Yani he gets the same question. And thus he says, I do not know. Kuntu aqulu ma yaqulu nasu fih. I used to say what the people used to say about him. فَيُقَالُ لَا ضَرَيْتَ وَلَا تَلَيْتَ. And so it is said, you don't know and you don't know. ثُمَّ يُضْرَبُ بِمِطْرَقَةٍ مِّنْ حَدِيدٍ بَيْنَ أُذُنَيْهِ. Then he is struck with a mallet of iron between his ears. That means from behind. فَيَصِيحُ صَيْحَةً يَسْمَعُهَا مَنْ يَلِيهِ إِلَّا الثَّقَلَيْنِ. And then he shouts a shout heard by everyone in the vicinity but the humans and genies. Ash-SharH, the explanation, is that al-Muslimu ghayru shahidi yuradu alayhi mithalu an-nar wa mithalu al-jannah fi al-qabr. The Muslim who's not a martyr, the non-martyr Muslim, we mean martyr of the battlefield, he will be given an image of the fire. Displayed to him shall be an image of the fire and an image of the garden in the grave. فَيَرَاهُمَا جَمِيعًا. So he will see both of them. That's not hard to comprehend. Even for people a long time ago, they can comprehend what I'm saying to you now. And now we are people who live in this time of technology. So that's amazing. That's easy for us to comprehend. Don't you know we are like some people who are, yani, this is a situation Allah gave us just like he gave other people a situation. Didn't some people, Allah made them dig their homes out of the rocks? Didn't some people, Allah made them giants? Didn't some people, Allah made them something else? So this is our situation here. Subhanallah, this is part of the nation of Muhammad. All these machines and things. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. So it's not hard to conceive this. Because Allah created what we are now witnessing. Talking to each other across countries, across continents. Seeing each other, for example, in communication. فَيَرَاهُمَا جَمِيعًا. He will see both of them. And like that, yani, didn't Allah create for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam the appearance of an old hag, and Allah created for him the appearance of a bull coming out of a hole on the night of Al-Isra. and many things Allah made him see. Allah has the power to create those things. He even gave us machines that by which he creates for us illusions. فَيَعْرِفُ فَضْلَ الْإِسْلَامِ, then that one in his grave will know the merit of Islam, that Muslim. Then he will know. Yani he knows already, of course. But it will be something else now. Because now it's over. Yani the dunya, it's over for him. Now he's in his grave. Now he's going to see what we don't see. This one, he will know the merit of Islam. حين ذلك معرفة عيانية. He will know it like seeing something with his own eyes. كما كان يعرف في الدنيا معرفة قلبية. Like he knew in the world, but by his heart. Now we believers, we are certain. Didn't Allah say, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون. The messenger believes in what was revealed to him from his Lord, and the believers believe in it too. We have to believe in the believers. The believers believe in that. We believe in that. Yani, we're certain about that. We don't have any doubt about that. Yani, I'm certain about that as I'm certain about everything I see in front of my face right now. But I never saw it though. So the person in his grave, he's going to know. That Muslim in his grave, he's going to know really then, by experience, what he knows inwardly now. وَأَمَّا الْكَافِرُ مِنْ أَتْبَاعِ فِرْعَوْنَ. And as for the disbeliever amongst the followers of Pharaoh, فَيُؤْخَذُ إِلَى مَكَانٍ يَرَى مِنْهُ جَهَنَّمْ. He will be taken to a place from where he will see hell. That's heavy there. He's saying they have special case. Subhanallah wa bihamdih. Subhanallah wa bihamdih. That's serious. As for the disbeliever amongst the followers of the Pharaoh in particular, those ones, so that nation, he will be taken to a place from where he will see hell. So that's like how it's special to the nation of Muhammad that we get interrogated in our graves. Munkar and Nakir, the interrogation of Munkar and Nakir, that's for the nation of Muhammad in particular. وَأَمَّا غَيْرُهُمْ مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ يُعْرَضُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِثَالُ مَقْعَدِهِمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ جَهَنَّمْ. But as for other disbelievers, they will be given a display of their spot in the afterlife. Their place in hell will be displayed to them. They shall see a display. SubhanAllah. And you know that the disbelievers from Noah, after they drowned, they were put into a fire. أُغْرِقُوا فَأُدْخِلُوا نَارًا. They were drowned and then they were put into a fire. That's other than the fire of hell. وَأَمَّا شَهِيدُ الْمَعْرَكَةِ. Now concerning the battlefield martyr. فَإِنَّ رُوحَهُ يَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةَ فَوْرًا. Indeed, his soul enters the garden immediately. وَيَأْكُلُ مِنْ ثِمَارِهَا. And he eats from its fruits. وَيَشْرَبُ مِنْ أَنْهَارِهَا. And he drinks from its rivers. في منطلق غير المكان. في منطلق غير المكان الذي يتبوأ في الآخرة. Somewhere other than where he will live in the afterlife. Because you know everyone in the garden has his own place. He has his own property, his own land. And there's public land in paradise too. Yani shared spaces. Private places and shared places. It's said there's a great city in Al-Jannah. There's a city there, it was said. وَمَعْنَا لَا دَرَيْتَ وَلَا تَلَيْتَ. a la araft. And the meaning of you don't know and you don't know, it means you don't know. وإنما قيل ولا تليت لتأكيد المعنى. And it was repeated. And in the Arabic, there was, the first word was darayt with a dal, and the second word is talayt with a ta, for emphasizing the meaning. I had an example. Something came to my mind in English. You might do something like that in English sometimes. You say a word, and then you say a word that rhymes with it. It's like you perverted the first word. I'm not saying this is perversion in Arabic, but it's like you just altered the first word when you said it the second time, and it rhymes, and you did it for effect, for emphatic, to be hyperbolic. لأن المعنى واحد. So that second one was said, and it was said with a ta, so it changed. The first word was, it's like changing the first word and saying it a different way the second time. That's for being hyperbolic, because they both mean the same thing. كما تقول العرب حسن بسن. It's like how the Arabs say حسن بسن. It's good, good. والمعنى واحد. The meaning of both statements is the same thing. وإنما يقال ذلك لتأكيد المعنى. That's only said to be hyperbolic, to be emphatic. ثم إن منكرا ونكيرا يضربانه بهذه المطرقة. Furthermore, Munkar and Nakir, they strike him with this hammer. ضربة لو ضرب بها الجبل لندك. They strike him with a blow. With a blow by which, had a mountain been struck, it would have crumbled. فيصيح صيحة يسمعها من يليه. And then the dead screams a scream heard by anyone beside him. Min bahaima wa tuyur, amongst animals and birds. Illa al-insa wal jinn, but not the humans and the genies. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ حَجَبَ عَنْهُمْ ذَلِكَ. For indeed, God veiled that from them. So it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, means he makes them not perceive it. وَلَفْظُ الْإِشَارَةِ الْمَذْكُورُ فِي هَذَا الْحَدِيثِ فِي قَوْلِهِ ما كنت تقول في هذا الرجل محمد. And the pointing word that's mentioned in this hadith, when the Prophet ﷺ said that the angels say, what did you used to say about this man, Muhammad? So the word this is a pointing word. ليس المعنى أنه في تلك الساعة يكون ظاهرا مرئيا mushahada. This doesn't mean that at that moment he would be there, or like seen, that he would be visible and seen and witnessed. وإنما هذه الإشارة تسمى إشارة للمعهود الذهني. Merely this pointing is to something in mind. This is pointing to something in mind. Wallahu a'lam. Allah knows best. Any questions?